Excellent. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the B&H live event space. My name is Kain Jones. I'm the CEO of Pixie, and we're here today to talk about how to protect your photos online. We're going to cover the problem, image theft, posting your work online, how to safeguard and protect yourself. We're going to go over some of the tried and tested solutions, such as watermarking, digital signatures, and some others. Displaying the right licensing terms, so if you are posting your work online, how you can make sure that it's clear and communicated, what your terms are. We'll look at copyright registration, the need for that, the pros and cons, and go into the future of image protection. So what are the solutions today, and what are the upcoming solutions and ones we believe are a good fit. So the problem, more than 1.8 billion images are uploaded to the internet every day. So the size of the content that's being put online is incredibly vast, and obviously that problem grows and grows and grows if people aren't following the right procedures, aren't protecting themselves online. Image theft. 85% of images uploaded to the internet are used without permission or without a license. Around half of that are used by bloggers and on social media. About 40% are used in a commercial way, so professionally, used by a business. So out of those images being uploaded every day, there's a lot being used without permission, without the right license. What's the impact of that? How does that affect photographers like you? How does it affect the internet community? Well, firstly, photographers not being paid for their work. Yeah, sure, sorry. Of course. So yeah, photographers not being paid for their work. You're creating something often with a lot of expense, with camera equipment, with setup costs. There's wonderful equipment on display here at B&H. So when your photos are used without being paid for, without a proper license, it's devaluing your work. It's devaluing the industry. It's showing or having the internet community not realize that photos have a value and that they can be licensed, often quite affordably. And it certainly threatens your branding and business opportunities. Your creativity and the value of your work is very important to protect. What is copyright? We get this question a lot. So copyright is assigned to you in the photo at the moment you create it. So regardless of whether you register that work, the copyrights are assigned to you at the moment of creation. The copyright is your exclusive legal right to publish, sell, reproduce your work. It's your work, you own it, you set how you want other people to use it, you set whether you want to license it, sell it, have that free to use, and it's very important that that's known. So our mission, as I said, I'm from Pixie. Our mission is to fight for the rights of artists. We were founded back in 2014 to try and help solve this problem. Photographers were struggling to monitor their work online. With 1.8 billion images being uploaded every day, monitoring the internet is not something you really want to be doing all day long, and nor should you. So each day, so today, fast forward to 2018, we're monitoring more than 30 million images every day online. We have customers all over the world, and to date we've helped them with 55,000 copyright infringement cases. So our service helps doing the monitoring, and we help resolving cases, notifying them of infringements. So we know a little bit about this topic. We're dealing with it every day. So some of the solutions. Obviously, you're here to learn about how to protect your work. So we're going to go through some of the solutions today. Watermarking. So applying a watermark to your photos. We're going to cover digital signatures, fingerprinting, what that exactly means. We're going to talk about the options of disabling right-click. We're going to go through about copyright notices, logos, displaying DMCA badges and stuff like this. And we're going to talk about hidden foreground layers. So a few people taking photos. So these are the topics we're going to cover, and then we're going to fast forward and look at some future methods that are becoming very, very popular. So watermarks. I think everyone here knows what a watermark is. You're displaying your name, your logo, some type of message over the photo to indicate maybe the use of that it's copyrighted, potentially your brand. This is a clear way to show that this particular image has some sort of attribution to it. There's a lot of debate over watermarks at the moment. They alter the visual appearance of your photo. They're very easily removed. If you've got a little watermark in the top right corner, for example, a simple crop will delete that get that out of the image. There's also some benefits to watermarking, we have to say. So as I said before, it's clear that it's your brand, it's clear whatever messaging you want to have on that, and it's also clear perhaps when you're sending a draft or a thumbnail to a potential client for them to review thumbnails. It's clear that this isn't licensed yet, that this is pending a valid license, and then once you've potentially sold that image or licensed that image, you can remove that and deliver to the client the full res version. So in a survey we did back in 2016, 87% of photographers had their watermark removed, their work stolen and their watermark removed in 2016. So 68% of that theft had the watermark completely removed. As I say, having it in sort of a corner can be very easy to crop out. I'm not sure if many of you know, last year, 2017, Google actually built an AI tool that can automatically remove watermarks from photos, almost flawlessly. Really. There's a number of tools online, there's a number of softwares for your phone, for your computer that you can download, and it will automatically remove the watermark from the image and effectively taking away that copyright or that important message you put on there in the first place. So watermarks, aren't a foolproof way of protection. Another thing about watermarks that not many people know is Google actually de-ranks photos that have watermarks on them and de-ranks the page they're on. Obviously, search engines want to deliver the right content to the people who are doing the search, and often they'll want a high-quality, high-res version of that photo. And Google like to promote the high-res, the unwatermarked images higher in the list. So if you are heavily watermarking your photos, there is potential that you'll sort of be de-ranked. Sorry, we have a quick question.
Speaking about that Google removal,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a copyright on, somebody removes it, that even that act of removing it, isn't that an infringement right there?
Exactly. Yep, we're about to cover that. So watermarking and anyone altering your photo or removing what's called CMI, your copyright modification or your copyright information, any removal of that is actually altering the work and is very much theft. So there's particular damages available under the law if anyone tries to remove your copyright information out of the image. So if perhaps you wanted to pursue legal avenues, it's a very strong case for damages when someone goes to the effort to remove your copyright information from the work. So that's a bit of a summary on watermarking. One of the better ways to do watermarking if you're wanting to is randomized. So if you're always placing the watermark in the exact same place in the exact same pixel area every photo, obviously it's easy for these algorithms to remove this every time from the same photo. There's been a lot of research recently, especially on the back of this Google AI tool, that randomizing watermarks, so different sizes, different layouts on the photo, it makes it a lot harder for these AI tools to do so. However, that's changing every day. If you are going to watermark, we certainly recommend randomizing and placing it in places on the photo where it's not so easy to crop out. So another potential solution is digital signatures. Sometimes this is called fingerprinting. So it's placing something inside the file, so it's not necessarily visible to the people who are viewing and downloading your photo, but it's a key that's hidden inside the file, and it's a key that you know and you have a reference for. You will need a service that does go out and monitor and look for that photo. What it will do is it will compare if there's any key in the photo that's published online and any that your source key. So this is certainly a way, unlike watermarks, it's a little bit more difficult to remove because often people don't know, and if they're not overly technical or sophisticated, they don't know to look inside the file and try and remove this key. It can be removed, however, it's a little bit more difficult. And you obviously need a service that's monitoring the internet and trying to compare files and looking for this key inside them, which there aren't so many of these services. Another very popular solution, a lot of websites, website builders, WordPress, for example, they have ways that you can disable right-click. So if you're on a page or a potential image user is on your website, the actual right-click function will not work. So if they do, you can even have warning messages popping up saying, this work is copyrighted. Contact the site for for permission. So that's one way if you have visitors on the actual page. However, that doesn't stop search engines. Search engines are looking for the direct file and displaying these, for example, in Google image search, stuff like this. So while it's great for minimizing people who visit your page, it's not going to be a protection against search engines or displaying that photo anywhere other than your website. Logos and badges are becoming very popular. So often people are watermarking their work or placing badges on the site or on the image. DMCA is a popular badge. In Pixie we have our own. Displaying these are very good in conveying to the potential user that this is protected, that it's registered, that it's a copyrighted work. This certainly helps, especially if someone then, there's a badge on the photo or a badge on the page or clear copyright information. If they still then, decide to download this work or use it without your permission, again, they've gone around the copyright information that you've put on there and the terms you've put on the image. So these can be effective to communicate your wish and desire, but again, there's ways around that. If it is on there, it can be cropped out. Another not so common technique or not so known, hidden foreground layers. So similar to right-click, this is a technology you can have on your gallery, on your website. What it does is it puts a clear overlay in front of the image. So if someone tries to click on your image and right-click and download, they can download it, but they're downloading the clear, transparent layer in front of them, so effectively getting a blank file. This is quite effective, again, for people who are visiting the actual page. It's not disabling the right-click, but it's letting them download a transparent, effectively blank file, rather than being able to download and take a copy of your work. Again, we have to remember search engines. They're very smart. They're looking for the original file. They're not looking for blanks. And they will still be displaying the actual image file in search engine results. So a very quick summary. We touched on watermarks. We touched on digital signatures. These are the fingerprints. We touched on disabling right-click on your actual web page. We touched on badges and logos. And we touched on hidden foreground layers. We've given our little star rating on how we think these really hold up for sophisticated ways of protecting your work. Obviously, watermarks are very clear ways of having your brand and your copyright information on there, and some of the other technologies. Even better than these is what we are calling active protection. So services like Pixie and others, the way we do this is a direct visual comparison of your photo. So regardless of any keys, any fingerprinting, any watermarks, we're looking for a visual comparison that compares A to B. Often these algorithms are very good. We can even match it if it's, for example, printed on a t-shirt and on Amazon, or if it's got text, if it's been edited, if there's different layers put on that. We're looking for patterns, pixel grading, a direct match to the image. These active protection services are 24/7, so they're not stopping. You're able to upload your full gallery or your full body of work to these services, and we scan the internet 24/7 looking for new matches. When we find these new matches, you're alerted, and then you can decide how you want to deal with that. We, for example, offer smart filtering, so we're able to filter down and indicate to you this is a commercial use or a non-commercial site. This is an American usage versus maybe a site in Russia or Australia. So the great thing about services like this is you don't have to go through the headache of ensuring everything is watermarked. You don't have to go through the headache of putting a digital or a fingerprint inside every image. You're not going to be deranked on Google, for example, for having large watermarks on there. And you can sleep a little bit easier knowing that there's a crawler going 24/7 looking for work and alerting you when your photo's used. It's also very great for backlinking and seeing how your work is being distributed. It might be that you have a client and you've licensed the work to be used in a certain way. It might be on their corporate website that you might not have licensed for social media use. This is a great way to see and make sure that that client is following your particular license terms. If all of a sudden you're seeing it on social media or in other ways, you can go back to that client and potentially sell a new license to them or upgrade that license. Also, if potentially the license has expired, you might have sold it or licensed it on a 5-year term. If 6 or 7 years have passed and they're still using it, there's ways that you can go back and try and relicense that work. So some other steps for protection. I touched on earlier about displaying terms. We're going to talk a little bit more about metadata, and we're going to talk about copyright registration. Here in the US, it's a very important topic. So, all rights reserved. This is displaying against your photo or your image what are the terms of the license. All rights reserved makes it very clear that you retain the full legal rights under the law. No rights are waived, no permissions are granted, and permission must be sought by you for any type of use. It's very important that if you don't want your work to be used, displaying clear terms and conditions on your site, on your gallery, on your social media accounts, this is a great protection if there is misuse, to prove that you made it very clear to the internet, on the website, what the terms you allowed this photo to be used under. Creative Commons is a very popular licensing method, or a popular term method for displaying if it's not all rights reserved. Maybe you're happy for people to use the photo in a non-commercial way. You might be happy to say that non-commercial use and no modifications is fine for you. However, you might also want to say that this is not allowed for commercial use, no modification is allowed, or attribution is or isn't required. So many photographers who aren't necessarily licensing their work or all their work are fine for their photos to be used online as long as there's clear attribution and as long as it's not a commercial sense. So Creative Commons makes this very clear. They have clear terms, they have clear badges and icons, and the internet community is really starting to pay attention to this. Platforms like Flickr make it very clear to display what the license terms of your photo are, whether it's all rights reserved, whether it's CC0, meaning it's available for any usage, any modification, whether attribution is required. So Creative Commons is certainly an interesting way to display your terms in a way that's commonplace on the internet. Metadata. So this is returning to embedding information in the file, but metadata is done in a standard way. So there's standardized fields in the metadata that can be placed into an image to display certain information, such as copyright information, such as usage information, if it's all rights reserved, if it's Creative Commons. Google very recently actually started paying attention to metadata. So if there is metadata information in the photo, such as your name and the copyright information, it's now displaying that in Google search engine results. This has just happened in the last few weeks, and the image community and a number of us have been lobbying for this for quite some time. So when users are searching, looking on Google, the image is being displayed, it's now very clear saying, this image is copyright to, Joe Blogs. It's displaying that information. We hope that this becomes more widespread. We would like to see this on other platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, as files are being uploaded there, that this metadata is being read, is being acted on, being respected. So putting metadata into the photo is very easy to do. If you're using Lightroom, for example, this can be done in bulk. This can be done on all your photos that ever get processed through Lightroom, and we certainly recommend doing this to embed copyright information into the actual file. Again, if metadata is removed or altered, it's a clear violation of your copyright information, and this certainly helps if there's any legal case. There's additional damages available. Copyright registration. So although your copyrights are assigned at the moment of creation, an additional layer is to register your work with the United States Copyright Office. It's reasonably easy to do. It's reasonably affordable. I think it's around $35 to register one image, or I think $55 to register up to 750 published photos. So what we say to our customers and people who ask us this all the time, we say if there's work that's very valuable to you, or if you're posting it quite frequently, or if you're detecting that a lot of traffic is coming to this photo, absolutely register it with the US Copyright Office. This is very clear that you own the photo. It's held with the government registry. If you ever have any legal, any unauthorized use and you want to go down the legal track, this gives you statutory damages, for example. This opens up additional damages that aren't necessarily available if you haven't registered with the Copyright Office. There are still some damages available, but the copyright registration brings sort of an additional layer. Yes?
With copyright registration, if you haven't done it before, to your attorney, is there any mistake that people make when they're registering the copyright?
It's a good question. So you asked about registering. Is it often that mistakes can occur, or is there any best practices? It's very important when you register with the Copyright Office, the main identifier of the photo is the title. So it's very important that once you register that photo, be sure that that title doesn't change. So keeping very accurate records, making sure that that title doesn't change, because that's the identifier when potentially your lawyer or someone who's researching that photo is looking for. It's the file name. Unfortunately, the US Copyright Office doesn't show a visual representation of the photo. So they're only recording the photo name, the file name. We would love to see that the Copyright Office also showed a thumbnail or a visual representation of the photo that was actually registered. And there's a lot of talk and lobby for the Copyright Office to modernize and to have this sort of visual reference as well.
And in that title, could you put your information number, let's say, photograph of Kain, November 1st, 2018, copyright Mark McLaren, New York 212674, like that?
You could. So a lot of our customers will put a unique code. So it might be that that's the identifier in their file storage. So it might be the number or series. Some will just put it as I don't know, Eiffel Tower 2018. We recommend making that as unique as possible. So putting your name in there, putting a date, putting a unique identifier certainly helps any argument of, oh, well, is it actually Eiffel Tower photo number 42 or 43? So having some unique identifier there in the photo title definitely helps with that.
Two questions. Number one, how long does it take the process of copywriting? And number two, does the name that you post the picture under has to be the same with the name that is copyrighted?
Good question. So you asked how long it takes and sort of the copyright process and the photo title if you're posting it online. The time frame we find the quickest is about 6 weeks from the moment that you register to the actual official filing and the certificate being sent back to you, anywhere up to 12 months. The Copyright Office has sped up recently. It used to be around 9 months. We actually at Pixie are registering photos for our clients on their behalf very regularly, and we've seen that shorten now to about 45 days. So it's great to register up front. It's great to register before any potential theft has happened. The question about photo title, best practice is once you've registered, do not change that title. You can put that title in the metadata. So it might be that the actual file name .jpeg you may change, but it's very important you keep that title exactly the same in the metadata. You have your copyright notice, excuse me, in the metadata.
For those 45 days, you're not covered. Or you are covered, you're tracked.
You are covered, yeah. Yep. So again, if as long as it's timely registration, what wouldn't work is if you found, I don't know, a large company using your photo, and you found out about it, I don't know, on January 1st and December 1st you decided to register. That's not timely registration. So registering before any potential infringement, or registering, what's called timely registration very, very quickly after finding out is the best practice.
Also, is there a way to automate that exact frame number? Like, let's say I take 1,000 pictures of you right now.
Yeah.
You call it Kain 001, without, like, something like that, and they have to put that into the title?
Yeah, so that's a good question. How can you automate the photo titling and the series numbers? Most photo management systems, Lightroom for example, will do this. So you can automatically edit names and increase that rhythm or that count by one. That's reasonably easy to do. No question? Okay. So we've covered some very popular ways up until today. We've talked a little bit about what we think is more the future of image protection. So up until today, watermarks, hidden layers, no right clicks have been very popular. We're now seeing sort of these future methods such as active protection being a lot more effective. They're not paying attention to watermarking. They're really just comparing the actual visuals of that. Some of you may have heard blockchain. It's a very topical buzzword at the moment. It offers a very interesting peek into the future of some of these architectures. Today, there is no solution for blockchain that's going to really, truly protect you. What blockchain has, in theory, will do quite well is keeping a record. So imagine that as the file is downloaded, there's a record of this. Every time you license it, there's a new record saved into the blockchain of all the information related to that image. So blockchain has a lot of promise as being a digital ledger, a digital record, but it being a great protection. To date, we haven't seen an amazing solution for that yet. So as I said before, Pixie, we believe that we've got a great AI solution for this digital age. The landscape's changing, the laws are changing, the way people are using photos online are changing. For example, the Google AI that was built, Google now respecting metadata information. So at Pixie, we want to be there to help the photographic community, not always just to be the police and pursue infringers, but also to be the educators. So we've created a project called Pixie Academy. We're taking these complex topics of copyright, of intellectual property, of how to use online, and breaking it down to clear, simple, easy to understand information, and we're keeping that very up to date. So in different parts of the world, as the law is changing, we're keeping the Academy, our Pixie Academy, up to date with easy to digest information. So if you do have questions, absolutely that's a great resource to keep watching. We really feel that safeguarding photography and safeguarding the value of photography is incredibly important. We don't want to see the internet and the internet users feel that photography is free to use, feel that copyrighted photos are a free-for-all and not need to be licensed. We really want to see that corporates and commercial users of these photos are putting into their budgets, licensing budgets, and are teaching their colleagues and having a clear process in their companies that we are going to buy images, we're going to respect copyright information, we're even going to credit the photographer an attribution of the image. So protecting your work is absolutely vital. Every creator, whether you're a photographer or illustrator, can help this by displaying clear information, by monitoring their work, and when businesses are using photos in a commercial way, they're making money potentially through advertising and sales. It's really important that you're enforcing your copyrights as well. There's services such as Pixie that make that very easy to do. If you have a copyright infringement that either we've detected or you've found, we have ways that we can work on that for you. We work on a no-win, no-fee basis. So if you have found a business or a commercial use of your photo, you can submit that to us, and we'll try and recover compensation from that business. And if we're successful, obviously, we'll charge a service fee. But we're trying to make copyright detection, monitoring, and enforcement easy to use, not scary, and not something you need to be spending all your time doing. As a photographer, you want to be out there creating great photography. You don't want to be spending 90% of your time monitoring and enforcing. So that was a quick summary of techniques today, some things that we think are the best solutions. Questions? Have you had problems? Have you found interesting solutions?
Are you guys involved in building blockchain technology to go with copyright?
Yeah, so your question is about blockchain and whether Pixie's involved in this. So we've had a number of research projects into this. As I said earlier, there's not a clear solution of how blockchain, and we have not seen this either, that blockchain is really going to be a true protection. We think blockchain's a very promising solution for digital ledger and for decentralized management of data. In terms of blockchain, it's not going to be an image crawler. It's not going to be searching the internet. So blockchain as an architecture that can be used in conjunction with copyright registration, with copyright information.
So blockchain can take you from the creator to the copyright infringer. Is the clear path? Does it do that?
So your question was, does blockchain, take you from the creation through to the use? That's what's very promising about it. What we would love to see is a future where, from the moment you create the photo, from the time that you process it through Lightroom, by the time you put it on your website, all of this is logged. So every time any interaction with the photo, any change, that there's a log. Every time someone downloads that, there's a log. As someone licenses that photo, there's a clear log. What this will help with is making it very clear to platforms, to lawyers and copyright enforcement services, what the history of that photo was. The interesting thing about blockchain is there's no one storage location. So it's not that you rely on a platform or Flickr or just the Copyright Office. Blockchain distributes the information around many servers. So it's on multiple locations at once, and it makes it much harder to edit that information. Well, you can't edit it, but it makes it much harder for fraud or hacking of that information.
So can you give us an idea of what you charge for your services? Someone pays for your service to search the whole web for your image, is that it? So can you give us an idea?
Yeah. So your question is to use Pixie, what the charges are. So our platform's free to use. So you can monitor 500 images for free. If you have a larger collection than that, we have a monthly charge to have the 24/7 monitoring. However, if you find copyright infringements, even on your own, we charge nothing for you to submit those cases to us. We will pursue that either in-house with our licensing team or with one of our partner law firms. So we partner with 30 law firms in 16 countries, and this whole resolution service is all on a no-win, no-fee basis. So as I said, to use the monitoring is free up to 500 images. We'll alert you every time we find new uses of that, and you can submit cases to us for free. And if we're successful, we charge a success fee.
Can you give us an idea of the percentage of cases you find of the images that are used?
Absolutely. So we, as I said earlier, we're monitoring around 30 million images every day. So it's an impressive task. We've uncovered 200 million matches of these photos and climbing. So the vast majority of that is on social media sites, around half of that, but there is very clear commercial infringements happening of our photographers' works. And a lot of the time it's very emotional. You might not be aware of some of these because you simply can't crawl the internet all day long. So often when you're uploading your photos, you might see, wow, it's used on company number A's website. I've never even had any interaction with them. We have some cases at the moment. One of our clients' work was used in a Netflix series. So he found, by using our service, his particular photo being used in marketing, in the promotion of this Netflix series. So I highly recommend everyone to monitor your work, to upload and see how it's being used. You might be completely happy with all the usage, but you may find one or two in there that you might want to take some action with.
So I use Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and a friend we're putting a hashtag to a site that he is, a nature site that he is accumulating, and I've noticed that a lot of people repost. Can you talk about the reposting?
Yes. So Instagram, Twitter, these reposting, retweeting, resharing is a very common situation online. This is why it's very important that as you're uploading to Instagram or Twitter, you're making your copyright information very clear, or the terms of that photo very clear. This gives you some protection. It's always back to the person who uploaded the content first. So if, for example, I don't know, it was uploaded to company number A's or your friend's Instagram account and then reshared 5, 10, 20 times, usually, in any legal situation, it will be tracked back to the person who took the photo and then put it online. So that act of downloading, copying, and then reproducing, putting back on the internet, it's usually where the infringement happens. There's been a lot of debate and a lot of legal cases around, it's called hot linking. So often if you embed a tweet on your website, you're actually not storing the file because the file is being stored on Twitter's server or on Instagram's server, which there's some still unclear and still some debate over whether that's actual infringement because it's appearing on your page, but the file isn't being stored on your server, for example. It's an evolving topic, and that's why we say, with Pixie Academy, we're writing content about this. We're monitoring the changes in case law and updating our community as and when this stuff happens.
So if you put 503,
Mm-hmm.
do you offer naming conditions for the put 500 before you upload to make sure that they fit your billing refinement?
Yeah, so your question was the photos that we offer and file naming. So absolutely, as you upload your image to our platform, we respect the metadata, we respect the photo title, but this isn't what we're using to find matches. We're using a visual comparison. So for example, if you accidentally have changed the file name or you've changed the metadata, or potentially you've forgotten to put metadata in one of the images, we're monitoring based on a visual. So
You're monitoring visuals, not based on tracking the metadata at all.
we certainly respect the metadata.
Like naming convention everyone signs it.
So we're certainly respecting the file names and metadata, but what we find is clever internet users know this and are stripping the metadata and changing the file names. So that's not the main use of our image scanning service. We're really looking for is it a direct visual comparison, even if it's been altered. We often find new watermarks applied over the top of our client's watermark. Happens quite a lot, surprisingly. We're matching pixel, we're matching patterns, we're matching shading, grading. Yeah. We often find even images printed on coffee cups and the photo of the coffee cup on Amazon, for example. The service can find even stuff like that.
And your effectiveness rating,
Mm-hmm.
you rated the watermarks 3 stars,
Mm-hmm.
and the invisible layer, whatever, only 2 stars.
Mhm.
And in my mind, it's like kind of reverse. It's easier to, get rid of a watermark
Yeah.
than by the way, how do you make the layers? You in Photoshop and then you flatten the file and the layer remains there, right?
So good questions. You said, why did we rank watermarks higher than transparent layer, and how do you use this transparent layer technology? The reason we feel watermarks get 3 stars and not 2 is watermark is helping to display the ownership. It's something that if it's visually removed from the image, it's a clear violation and removal of your copyright information. So a transparent layer isn't necessarily communicating your copyright information, and if it's used, if the transparent layer technology is bypassed and the image is being used, the user didn't actually strip any information out of the file. They simply were able to get around the layer technology. So watermarking, we believe is a slightly better technology. How to do it? There's a number of plugins. If you're using WordPress or using some gallery tools or website builders, there's a lot of plugins available. I think trying to do it yourself could be quite complicated. However, maybe you have a web developer or a company that can do this for you. Similar with right-click, there's a lot of plugins available for popular hosting platforms. Excellent. Any other questions? I'm happy to.
Screen captures, are they considered, especially your rollover, are they invisible? When you roll over and you screen capture, how does that?
Yeah. So screenshotting, you asked, how does this work? Especially on social media, Instagram, for example, there's no sort of right-click on your phone on the Instagram feed. So a lot of people are screen capturing that, cropping out everything else. That's why active protection and searching visually is very important, because at a screen capture, the file name will be completely different. There will be no metadata information. the transparent layer is bypassed effectively.
And people also take that screen capture, import it into Photoshop, and rename it, and turn it to that.
Exactly.
You guys can still track
We can still track that. So your question was, yeah, people importing this, editing it in Photoshop, changing information, putting it online. There are companies that will often, you know, put a big banner across the image, or, you know, might be a Hawaiian photo, and they're advertising holidays, for example. And again, that's altering your image, and that's why the visual comparison we feel is much, much better than just scanning for metadata or just scanning for photo title, because that has changed very, very easily.
How do you feel, from your experience, about the lowering the resolution of the picture? Of course, it degrades your quality,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as copyrighted and being copied by somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
You asked about, yeah, lowering the resolution of the photo.
Very low resolution.
Yeah, so we certainly, I think everyone should be aware of some of these techniques. And if you are potentially you're working on consignment or on assignment, and you're taking photos for your clients, you want to send them proofs. You want to let them know, hey, look, these are all the photos I've taken for you. Which ones do you approve? Certainly, sending low res is a very good option. A thumbnail, sending that thumbnail with a watermark is even better. And as I said sort of earlier in the talk, only once you have a license transaction with that customer, then sending them the full res, no watermark version. It really depends on the type of photography and the type of business that you're offering, or the ways that you're posting your work online. We still find even some businesses with very grainy, pixelated versions of the photo with a watermark still on their website, which I find shocking. But people do. Same with social media. You know, some people a low res photo on Instagram, for example, still displays very well. But regardless, it's your photo. So even if you post it in low res and it's used, it's still your photo. And that's why, you know, the visual comparison is very important.
Well, I was thinking about that same thing. When I upload to Instagram, I upload the small size.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still not a protection. They can't print it, or could they print it? They want it too small.
So posting in low res, you know, makes it certainly harder to print in large format to use in a large way. So this can be one way to make it a little bit more difficult. It really depends. If you're trying to protect it from print, certainly lowering the resolution is a good deterrent. If you're concerned about it being shared on social media, you know, it probably still could be with reasonable quality.
So you mentioned you're monitoring, you know, all these pictures and you've done all these experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is this: if you have any, let's say, case studies or hardcore evidence that, let's say, against this type of business, maybe it's a newspaper, maybe it's a magazine, maybe it's a record company, maybe it's a hotel. Yes, Pixie was able to do this. They were able to do kind of damages.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a list of clients that you've been successful in getting awards against? Because, like, you could talk and you're a very good speaker, a very good salesman, but how do I know what you say is true?
So your question was, out of all the, you know, the things we've talked about today, is there proof, is there fact, is there information, online statistics? We published a study back in 2016, so we asked our community of photographers, you know, how their work was being used, how they were posting it. That's where some of these statistics came from, and we found very clearly that 87% of our photographers had their work stolen. We found that 67% of those had the watermark removed. In terms of our success rates, often these legal settlements are bound by confidentiality, so it makes it very difficult for us to be able to talk about it. But some of the cases we certainly highlight on our blog and in our academy, because we feel it's important for people to know other use cases. For example, this Netflix case I mentioned, you know, we've done a case study on our website about exactly how that occurred and how we're helping the photographer. So when we can talk about these cases, We absolutely we try to do that, not necessarily from a marketing point of view, but more from an education point of view. And it's really interesting to see, you know, how that photographer posted online, what his situation or her situation was, how they got a resolution out of that, how, you know, one of our lawyers or Pixie were able to help in that situation. We really believe in educating and having information out there.
Yeah, the more you can do that, I think the stronger makes your product.
Thank you. Yeah.
The more that I want to use.
Okay.
How does it work as far as photographers and assets that site hosted by Squarespace?
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know, they're updating content. How do you work with that site during that web hosted site?
Sure. So your question, let's say you're hosting your gallery on Squarespace, something like that. How is Pixie interacting with that? So we offer, I think, 11 import sources or synchronized sources. So if you're posting or hosting your photos on SmugMug or Flickr or Instagram, you can actually set up an automatic connection between Pixie and that service. And all the images are synchronized automatically. When you're posting new photos, you can resynchronize that. So it's not that you have to constantly be thinking, oh, I must upload that to Pixie, or I must keep monitoring that. We've built these great automatic connections to, I think it's 10 or 11 different platforms, including, yes, SmugMug, Flickr, yeah, a number of the popular platforms. Again, it shouldn't be complicated. It shouldn't be something you're having to think of every day. That's what we're here for. Sure.
So let's say we do the 500 photos, and how do we find out if anything has been listed? Is there an automatic reporting? Do we go on to Pixie and say, tell me my report, or what's the
Yeah. So you asked about, you know, you've uploaded your photos. How do you get alerted to this? So we start scanning within seconds. So you're getting your first matches back within minutes, and you can set how often you want reports. Do you want them daily, weekly, monthly? We'll send you out reports letting you know of new matches we've found. Our AI technology automatically categorizes things for you, so you can see just social media, United States. Maybe you just want to see commercial in Australia. We've got all these filters built in to help filter out some of the noise, and you can focus on the matches that are really important to you.
Also, is there any time limitation on how far back you can go in copyright? Like, let's say you picked up something you found in whatever 2006 or 1999, whatever it might be.
So your question is about time limitation from maybe when it's used and when you find out about it. There is statute of limitations, and that is 2 years in the US. So it's from the moment you're aware of the infringement. So using a service like Pixie, and you're made aware of it tomorrow, you have 2 years to act on that. In some situations, you know, that time changes, and certainly, you know, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not here to give legal advice, so I put that caveat there. But yes, there is that 2 year from when you are made aware of it to take action.
It would also be very interesting when you do a presentation like this to have one of your attorneys interested to see the right course.
Absolutely. So on Pixie Academy, we're often doing joint articles with our attorneys. We're often doing speeches and presentations at conferences, and we plan to do some more video content. So absolutely subscribe to the Academy, and we really want to have more of this education, including coming from lawyers, which I'm not.
You said you have 16 countries that you deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Is Russia and China close?
Good question.
They steal everything.
Yeah. So you asked which countries we operate in. Is Russia or China on that list? It is not. So we're operating in countries where there is clear legal paths and legal avenues to have a resolution. We offer what we call takedowns. So we've built a takedown tool. So you might find a usage and you don't necessarily want to pursue and get compensation. It might be someone personally using it on their blog, or it might be in Russia and China. We've built this as a one-click solution. So if you find it, you can send translated takedown notices. We have in 14 languages. That covers all the key jurisdictions. You can send a legal takedown notice to the operator of that website or the host, and enforce your copyright claim and your takedown request. So it's not always that you have to go down the money recovery. A resolution for you might be simply just have it taken offline. Might be on a third-party site that you're not happy with.
Is there a web hosting company that you work with, or do you recommend?
So you asked, is there a web hosting company that we recommend? We don't have any partnerships with these platforms. I mean, the popular ones in terms of hosting that we work with, we've built these direct integrations. Some are very good for simply having galleries. So, you know, Flickr, for example, is a really good platform for displaying your work. However, they don't do sales or licensing. There are other platforms that also have a checkout function and let you license and sell the work. Some take a cut for that, some don't. So we don't necessarily have a list of recommendations. It really depends what type of hosting or gallery or checkout you're looking for. But I'm happy to give you some tips afterwards.
Is there a live human that you can interact with through an 800 number?
So you asked, is there a live human? You mean at Pixie? Sure. So yeah, we have a team. So yeah, we have a very supportive team. So if you're using our platform, we have a live chat function. We actually have real humans at the end of telephones. Real humans. So we, yeah, well, as opposed to, you know, robots or.
When they say help and then they have all these topics, I don't like that.
Sure. No, we have real humans. And that's again where I said earlier, we don't want to be just the police, we also want to be the educators. Sometimes our customers will call us and say, I've just found this, I don't know, usage number A, and oh my God, what on earth am I going to do? And often it's a very emotional topic. You know, when your work's stolen and used by a company, this can be very emotional and confusing. And you know, what's the copyright law in Australia? I'm here in New York City. What can I do? So that's where our team are there to help via live chat, via email, via phone, and we get calls every day by people who are confused by this topic, and we try and make it really simple and accessible. At the end of the day, it's your rights, so you should be able to enforce them. Thanks. You should be able to enforce them. You should be able to have clear information.
Also, we find in enforcement, problems when you legally do whatever you do, you don't take it to court. Can we get any kind of feedback on that? Yes, okay, we took it to court, this is what happened, this is the result, you won, or you didn't win, or this is what they're proposing, that's it.
So your question is, you know, do you get updated sort of the progress of a case? If you had a case with Pixie and one of our partner attorneys, you're kept up to date the whole process. So at the end of the day, it's your rights, it's your content. We're here as a service to help you. So you're updated at every key stage of the case. You have a case manager that you can talk to and ask questions and provide additional information. They might have questions for you. We try and make it easy, so whenever we're helping you on this topic, we're not going to come back and sort of bombard you with technical questions. That's our job, and that's our lawyer's job, or our partner law firms. You have a dashboard where you can see all your cases. You get a history log of everything that's happened. You get email alerts at key stages. We like to keep you informed. It's your work. It's your creation.
Yeah, and as a client, do we have any input? Yes. Okay, settle this. You can get 10,000, take it, or hey, you can only get $50. Hell,
Absolutely. So your question was, do you get input and can you authorize settlements? Absolutely. It's your rights. We're not here to make decisions for you. You can authorize us to and say, hey, look, I'm happy to settle this case between $500 and $1,000. If you can get somewhere in that range, you would be happy, and we convey that information to our partner law firms, and they'll respect that. They might come back and sort of say, hey, we've got an offer on the table for X. We believe this is a fair settlement for this case. And your input's always taken if you choose to request that. Again, we try and make it easy. We're not here to hide information and make it mysterious. We want things to be transparent and easy to use. Wonderful. Well, I'm here if there's any questions afterwards. Thank you.